how do you see for real the market here in Latin America, and particularly, of course, in Colombia?
Okay. Well, I can speak first about Anixter. So, introduce myself. My name is Andy Jimenez. I'm the Vice President of Technology with Anixter, based in Chicago. So I'm responsible for our technology programs and initiatives within Anixter. And as a company, we're focusing on three broad markets. We're focusing on data centers. We're focusing on physical security. So that's cameras, recording, access control, and door locking hardware. And we're also focusing on building technologies.
Yeah.
So both cable and wireless systems. So those are the focus areas for us. But specific to Latin America, my expertise is mainly in the infrastructure and data centers. We're seeing very good growth in Latin America. In my presentation at the Bicsi conference this week, I spoke about the global growth rate of data centers around the world. The US is a very mature market. Europe is a very mature market. Kala, we have room to grow, and I think if you look at the growth rate of data centers in Latin America, they're leading the world. So you're looking at 30% growth projected over the next few years within this region. So there's very good opportunities for growth. And I think
figures too. So
very good, yeah. So I think it's a very good opportunity for companies to get into the data center space because it's very dynamic. There are a lot of changes that are happening within both the technology and the market. And I think if you're smart about how you go about doing it, there's definitely opportunities.
Cool. I see that the data center environment is changing or have changed very strongly in the last years. So how do you foresee that the customers in Colombia, particularly in Latin America, are going to take advantage of new trends? For instance, such as all-in-one data centers or more environmentally friendly solutions whatsoever, so on.
Yeah, I think from a technology point of view, there's a lot of new infrastructure standards that are being developed around high-speed cabling. So there are many choices that customers have in selecting their infrastructure. So they can go with a copper interface or an optical interface, but I think really it's up to the end user to really select. I'm not sure if Colombia is any different than the US or Europe. I think it really depends on what are your application requirements, and then you just pick the requirements accordingly. And I think from an energy efficiency perspective, I think there's opportunities down here as well to build more energy efficient data centers. I think using some of the best practices that are out there, like things like airside economizers and
sure.
Those types of technologies, I think you could take advantage of that here.
And do you know what I see? Colombia is like North American market, but they want cheaper, and they don't approve themselves. They need the CEO or the CFO to take the last word, so the CTO sometimes lose the fight, even if they promise improvements in performance or whatsoever.
Right.
So it's very hard for people in Colombia to sell, to offer or to take advantage of the last trends in technology.
Right, well, exactly right. I think if you look at the latest technology, you definitely pay a premium for some of these solutions. So if you look at cooling solutions, precision air cooling systems, and other types of cooling solutions, that they do tend to be a little bit more expensive and have a premium to them. But if you're smart about your applications, there are also very cost-effective ways to save money and to be energy efficient within a data center. So I think you can find cost-effective solutions out there and still meet the energy efficiency requirements that are required to really run an energy efficient data center. So I think it's just a matter of evaluating what is out there. There's many different solutions, many different approaches, many different best practices. So I think you can find the right approach within your specific budget. So I think that's something that the Colombian market and Latin American market can take advantage of.
Yeah, and besides that, I think that data center must to be smarter in these countries. I mean,
Sure.
and not just tier 4 compliant, but smarter in terms of offering, smarter in terms of knowing how it's working inside from the processor to the coolers whatsoever.
Right.
So how to sell it? Or how to make that improvements?
Yeah, I think that's very difficult too, because many of the management solutions and platforms that are available today are proprietary in nature. So it makes it difficult to do multi-vendor types of deployments. So for instance, if you're installing a power distribution system or a cooling system, you're typically sourcing those products from different suppliers. So it's very difficult to manage across the different vendors because there isn't a single management framework that's accepted across the industry. So I think that's what's necessary before we start getting large-scale adoption of these management platforms. And hopefully we'll get to that, but I think at this point the solutions do exist, but you have to work with the individual suppliers to deliver them.
Okay. ¿Tienes alguna
Sí,
pregunta?
que me quede, me ayudas a preguntarle.
Sí, dale.
Nosotros dentro del artículo hicimos el DCIM.
They talk about that in its article. They wrote about TCIM.
Sure.
¿Cuál es su opinión frente a este mundo que está por descubrirse en ese sentido?
How do you foresee this new world that is just to be discovered?
Yeah, I think it's the DSIM solution, DCIM, the value proposition is very strong, because if you're able to manage your infrastructure in real time using a single interface, you can gain tremendous efficiencies in your system. So I think in the future is good, but I think the industry has to start standardizing around the technology, like what is the proper way to exchange information across all these different systems. But I think DCIM solutions are still very early, but I think long term this will be the trend in the industry, is to utilize these solutions. But I think it's probably 5 years.
Okay, almost for the next decade.
Yeah, I would say 5 years before the technology is mature
To go to the peak.
enough to get broader adoption, because right now it's just the individual vendor solutions right now.
Pero se logra llegar a eso, teniendo en cuenta que de cierta forma hay un cortocircuito entre los proyectos y la adopción
y el
de
desempeño.
Sí, exacto.
He said that it's not working that nicely.
Right.
It's like a short circuit between performance and the ideal project that supposed to be sold, supposed to be operating. How do you see this contradiction?
Yeah, well, I think again it goes back to lack of standards. And all the solutions are proprietary, so it's difficult to do a large-scale deployment using multiple vendors, because there isn't a standardized way to exchange information across your power distribution unit, your UPSs, your cooling systems.
Your brain, your
It's
software.
very separated, so it's very difficult to exchange information. But like I said, once that becomes determined, then I think you'll have broader adoption, you'll have better solutions. As an example, the security industry has the same issue. So you have cameras, you have recorders, you have access control systems. They all operate under separate platforms, but as we put these devices onto the network, you need to standardize the way the information gets exchanged.
Yeah.
So there's a standard out now called the Open Network Video Interface Forum, or ONVIF. So they're developing a standard around that. So I think a similar activity has to happen for DCIM to get broad adoption.
So that brings us back to Bicsi. What's the work of Bicsi on that? What the duties? of you as a member of an association as Bicsi?
Well, I think what Bicsi can do is promote the need for better standardization in the market around management platforms. Again, Bicsi doesn't tend to write manufacturer specifications. They're more about how to install and deploy and maintain a system.
I remember the fight against 6, 7
Right.
categories or in cabling. It was so complicated to work with that for almost 10 years or more.
Right.
So we don't want it to happen in the next step.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's the difficulty is across the industry is how do you get industry consensus around different solutions. But I think the benefit to a customer is that you do have many choices as far as technology and products.